This next segment, for me, is a true honour and privilege, and one of the highlights of what we've got the chance to do over the last 10 years through running Talent Summit, and it's the Dermot Costello Outstanding Leadership Award. It runs deep with us. It means a huge amount to me, all my colleagues at Sigmar, and all the Talent Summit community. I was speaking with Jess, Dermot's wife, there 2 weeks ago, and just spending time talking about him buoyed me, and I certainly felt my experience of him in his presence was a great reminder of real core values that I certainly experienced in Dermot himself. This year's recipient of the award is Ryan Smith. Ryan Smith is the founder and the executive chairman of Qualtrics, a company who have a very strong presence here and have had a great impact on the Irish business landscape over the last 7 or 8 years or so. Qualtrics was founded in Utah. It was Ryan and his brother Jared set up Qualtrics in the basement of their home, their family home. Their dad was a professor in the university, Brigham University, and had a research tool. They took that tool and they commercialized it, and they defined a category that's now called experience management. So how we pulse the experience of our products and services is now the category that Qualtrics has defined. Qualtrics went on and they raised over $400 million, and they became one of the fastest growing technology businesses in the world. And just on the eve of their debut on the NASDAQ, they were acquired. They were bought by SAP for $8 billion. That was the highest valuation for any privately held software company ever. More recently, they've spun out and they've made the debut. They've IPO'd on the NASDAQ, and they've reached a valuation at the peak of over 21 billion. Ryan and his wife Ashley have recently bought the NBA Utah Jazz team, and more than that, and more than the success of the business itself, Qualtrics is an outstanding employer and have gone on to do tremendous things. To pay tribute to his friend, to our friend, Dermot Costello, who set up Qualtrics in EMEA back when they arrived, Ryan Smith is in conversation a little earlier on with my colleague and friend, Rossa, who share fond memories of how Dermot influenced Ryan, his leadership, and also Qualtrics. I'll hand you over to Rossa Mullally.
Ryan, thanks so much for joining me today. We're humbled that you've accepted this award in Dermot's name. And I suppose to start off, I'd like to just tell you a little bit about how Dermot's impacted me. I was lucky enough to get to work with him, for a couple of years, and I think of him often. I think of him pretty much every day, Ryan. And when I think of him, it's usually when I'm not living up to my own expectations, and when I'm not my best self. And I always think, okay, Rossa, like what would Dermot think about that? You know what I mean? Like, and it usually makes me go back and maybe either stop what I'm doing or go back and do it again properly. He genuinely is somebody that I think of, and there's one word that comes to my mind certainly when I think of Dermot, and it's integrity. And Ryan, that's the reason why you've won this award. And I don't want to try and embarrass you, because I know you're not the type of guy who'll ever say some of this stuff in public. But I was talking to Jess, and I've been just seeing the impact that you made with helping them out, whether it's the Five for the Fight campaign when Dermot was still with us, Skype calls, and it's not just you as well. There's other guys in Qualtrics like Jared and Dan and everybody has really kind of mirrored what you've done as well. But some of the stuff that really means somewhat suggests the Skype calls on Christmas Day when you have your own families to worry about and think about. It's people flying over to see Dermot before he passed on and putting that out. As you said, attending the funeral, and I know that sounds like it's you're flying all the way from Utah to make sure that you're there. And I remember seeing you there. unfortunately, when he passed, then it's the constant phone calls and Skype calls to check in with Jess and the family to genuinely make sure that they're okay. And, organizing trips for Kate to go see hockey games because she's an interest in that. And I'm not even talking about flights and accommodation here. Giving up your own home to do that, to accommodate them, to look after them, to making sure that they got the best of care. And getting Alex, who's interested in becoming a pilot, introduced to pilots. And it's the genuine, as Jess said, like, and there's no angle, Ryan. There's nothing here except the goodness of your own heart and your genuine concern about them as people. And that just, it reflects, it's what Dermot always talked about with me. It just shows integrity. That's why you've won this award. That's why we're delighted that you're able to accept it. And that's why we're kind of honored that you're here talking to us today. And then it's genuine, Ryan. It is 100% genuine.
Yeah, well, first of all, like, I'm humbled. I think as you go through, you bring back a lot of memories. I mean, we get busy throughout our days and we're on to the next challenge is all of us deal with. And there's but I'm actually grateful for just the chance to talk about Dermot because, people don't understand. I was a young CEO who had only operated in one office. And, the second office, which felt like the biggest challenge I've ever seen, would be to roll into a country that we don't know. And at a time where the business can go one way or another, make a bet. And with Dermot, to be honest, I don't even remember much of the interview process. I just remember the feeling that I had where here comes this big gregarious guy, and I was with Stuart Orgel, and he just kind of put his arm around me and said, "It's okay, son. I got you." And it was just like, he was just such an incredible teacher, and that's what he did with everyone. He just kind of put his arms around us. Here I am coming in, like, trying not to mess up. There's no playbook in what we're doing. I'm in Dublin, Ireland, which is so foreign to me. I'm about 10% sure I'm doing the right thing. And this guy just comes and says, "Hey, I got you, kid. Like, just let me take over and we'll figure this out." And I think that if I could ever emulate a quality that Dermot had, and I think if all of us could, it would just be that one where we can put our arms around people and say, "Hey, we got you." And you knew Dermot, everyone knew Dermot had us, right?
Yeah.
And and that's something super special. And I think the other thing that is you kind of recount is, I remember when we came up with the value, one of our core values at Qualtrics, of being all in. And, we were sitting in the theater at my house and we were coming through like how we described ourselves, and we came up with this value together as a group. And, because I would say it or people would say it, but we really went deep on what that meant. And the first part is when someone was all in on you, or you were all in on your work, then we had this whole manifesto around what it meant to be all in. And it really meant that you were committed and you had integrity around it, and you were doing all the things that Dermot would talk about. At the end of the conversation, and I don't recall who, but we came up and said, "Well, if someone's all in on this side, shouldn't we be all in on them?
Yeah.
And what does it mean for the company to return that?" And we talked about family. We talked about how you're part of the family, and that is a two-way commitment. And it's actually really, these values are theoretical until they become practical. And so to hear you talk about and reminisce a little bit, and then to hear Jess's kind of words through your voice, it makes me proud that for our company and the people around, that the values became practical.
Yeah.
And they became natural for people to say, hey, like, outside of Jared and I, right? And that is probably something that, you know, we need to continue to do. And I think it's a lesson for everyone is, you know, those values could easily be something that was left in the office or left once the event happened or when Dermot wasn't here. And the fact that as an organization, we still carry that on. That's super cool. That's super cool.
No, and Jess said something to me yesterday, which made me smile. She said that, you know, she was driving down the road many years ago with Dermot in a what we would call in Ireland a jalopy, like a banged up car with the registration number held on by twine, and he'd always say, "Dream, believe, and achieve." And he's 100% done that. He did that with his life. And to be fair, Ryan, you haven't done a bad job of it yourself, from basement to billion-dollar company to basketball team. Well done. And I saw you with the Utah. Saw you've bought the Utah Jazz essentially. You know, you haven't done a bad job of that yourself. If you want to talk a little bit, wax lyrical, a little bit about your own journey.
Well, I think Dermot and I think the same way. A lot of, like, now we were different, but I think it's why I got, like, Dermot. You know, a lot of times communication's hard. I understood Dermot. Like, I got Dermot. Like, and we didn't have to say anything. It's because he wanted what I wanted, just the way he carried himself. And you know, I'm a complicated kid, and you know, he would think bigger, and he would think out there, and he just operated like a founder and an owner, and that it was all his. And that's, it sounds so simple, but it's so difficult. It's so difficult to carry the weight as if you're the only one that can do it and it's all on you, but then go inspire everyone else to do it at the same time. Like, it's so simple. And, you know, I think that, you know, he's a legend, and, you know, whenever, you know, and his legacy needs to continue. So I'm really glad that you're doing it. And for my journey, it's similar. Like, I've got, you know, basketball, and there's a lot of belief that comes with a team. There's a lot of belief. You have to believe, and then you got to go achieve it. Right. And the principles that we have here transfer over. I mean, we're the number one team in the league right now, right? Which is crazy. And but we got to go believe and go make it happen, and make something happen that's never happened before.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's like, there's a lot of Dermot in that, right?
Big time. Yeah, big time.
You know, whether it's selling his boat or, you know, being a kid from, you know, where he grew up, and like, you know, it's, and just achieving and like believing and motivating, and then doing the work. Like everyone forgets about the work. I mean, this is a guy who literally probably took on more chemo than anyone I've ever seen, and would still show up at the office.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, we got him. We had a driver set up because he still wanted to come in, and that was a process. And just, we thought the drive, like, and that wasn't like 3 months. That was
Yeah.
like years of him going through this. And that's and I knew he hurt, but he never showed it. And it was unbelievable.
He's some motivator. Jess was talking about then going home. He set up the Ireland Syria charity, and he had gotten everybody organised within an hour. And there's a family from Syria living in Wicklow now because of him. And you doing that on top of doing everything that he was doing with you guys, and to think that legacy he's left with those people. But even Jess said one more thing. She said, and I won't take up too much of your time, Ryan. She said that recently enough, a young man from Qualtrics had texted her, reached out to her, and said that Dermot, this person had joined 6 months after Dermot had passed on, but he'd been the recipient of the internal Qualtrics award named after Dermot Costello. And he'd been inspired. This guy had suffered a fair bit of personal tragedy in his life, but he'd been inspired to volunteer his time. Wanted to make that connection with Jess because it meant so much to him. And it's brilliant that Dermot's legacy is living on, every day. Me getting to talk to you about him today has been an absolute privilege, Ryan. It really has. I like talking about Dermot. They're always good conversations. They always make me try and be better. And I think he always, that was probably his legacy in some ways was, trying to be better. That's what Dermot inspired, I think, in others,
Well, and I hope everyone, who reads the newspaper will go online and listen to his last talk. Because too many people, or not enough people, have a chance to be with someone amazing who knew that the end was coming.
Yeah.
And it was so lucid and was able to actually articulate and communicate in a way. I've never seen it. I've never seen someone who had time and the capability to be able to communicate really what he thought and wanted everyone to know. And if everyone who reads the article or can do one thing is just watch his talk that he gave, like, I think we'll all be better.
Yeah.
And it'll actually change people's lives. It's changed my life, right? And so and that's the beauty of it. So super honored. Don't feel like I deserve it. But look, in honor of Dermot, I'm sure I'll go around touching every year some single person that will he'll help by doing this. And maybe there's just just a reminder here of Dermot that will make me just lean back more the way Dermot was.
Yep.
And if that's what receiving this award does, it's time good spent, because maybe I can try to go put my arm around more people like Dermot did and say it's going to be okay. Well, I got you.
On that note, Ryan, I'll leave you to it. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, man.
Really appreciate it.